Love, respect, and honor. That's what I got out of this chapter. This episode. Still transitioning from manga to anime brain. But love, respect, honor. Well, that and bang, pow, biff, wham! This was a wonderful episode. Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we will be taking a fully spoilery look at Kaiju number 8, episode 9 of the anime. And there will be spoilers, so in order to give you a chance to click away if you don't want to hear any spoilers, I'm going to tell you now to go check out the links below the video to get yourself a copy of one of my books, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, a collection of short, absurd science fiction stories. Now, spoilers, you have been warned. Fire rains down from the sky in a fantastically cinematographed, is that a word? Opening scene. You have the attack of the wyvern-type kaiju. These four-limbed dragons. They just have wings and hind legs. And that imagery of that soldier standing there on the roof as the base is just bombed out, that is just beautiful cinematography. You have the base reacting very realistically. You have the rookies just waking up shocked but following their training. You have the commanders issuing orders. And we get a look at Kafka being useful. He gives Vice Captain Hoshina just a second of time to focus his thoughts. Vice Captain Hoshina was clearly figuring it out on his own, but Vice Captain Hoshina was distracted by running the base. And we get to see the real benefit of having Kafka in the unit. It's one guy dedicated to knowing everything about the local kaiju. And Kafka immediately notices that someone is directing these kaiju, that these are very individualistic kaiju who wouldn't be working together unless there was someone to control them. And he relays this to Vice Captain Hoshina right as Kaiju number 10 steps onto the battlefield. I mean, technically he's not called Kaiju number 10 in the series, but I don't think it's a spoiler because the numbering system is pretty obvious by this point. And one thing that really shocked a lot of us who are manga first was the color of Kaiju number 10. He is bright, brilliant red. Because Kaiju number 10 had the same shading as Kaiju number 8 in the manga, we assumed that Kaiju number 10 was going to be another jet black. But in retrospect, the anime would want them to be visually distinct, so it makes sense that Kaiju number 10 is going to be a different color than Kaiju number 8. We get to see Kafka cleverly using partial transformations to rescue Manase. We get to see how the base is reacting. We get to see Reno and Kokoru working together brilliantly, and we get to see military guy and rich boy working together brilliantly. So we get to see just how, even after this devastating attack, when they're just completely scattered, how the base comes together and works and begins working together. And now, even without Mina there, they start clawing back control of the base, bit by bit, inch by inch. And this, getting to the main point of my analysis here, this series of events that I've just described, it shows how good Matsumoto is at realism. Matsumoto researches the science behind things. Matsumoto probably did a lot of research on how firebombing military bases work. And unfortunately, Matsumoto would have had a lot of local information on that situation too to draw from. Japan is no stranger to what happens when military bases are firebombed. But no matter where you're from, if you go back and look at these emergency situations, or if you've ever been in one of these emergency situations, there is that initial chaos, and then what comes after the chaos is based on how well trained the responders are. Earthquakes, fires, military attacks. Matsumoto really captures the initial chaos and then the growing order as everybody reports to their bases, shows up for duty, and the situation progresses. Because more does happen after that initial attack. And Matsumoto has this dedication to scientific realism, but Matsumoto also has a dedication to his art, and his art is manga and anime. And the absurd media conglomerate, and all the absurdities of the media conglomerates that surround that, including Power Rangers. And we all know the classic trope of Power Rangers. The Power Rangers go out, they battle the bad guy has the upper hand, the Power Rangers get the upper hand, and then the bad guy pulls out his trump card, which is transforming into a giant monster. And the classic criticism of this is that monsters that big can't really exist in the world. And you can't really transform from a smaller monster into a larger monster, because where did all that mass come from? And that larger monster should have overheated and shouldn't be able to move because it's overheating. Now, Matsumoto loves this method of storytelling. You can see it in how he draws characters. You can see it in how carefully he works in his realism and the fantastical elements of the story. So Matsumoto wants to do a serious, non-ironic monster gigantification at the end of a long battle scene. So what does he do? He takes the critiques one at a time. Critique number 1, monsters that big can't exist. Well, that was the one giant leap away from reality that Matsumoto knew his readers would allow. That's the very first fantastical element, and quite possibly the only fantastical element that Matsumoto has introduced so far. Giant kaiju can't exist, and he explains it by kaiju. You've seen that the Defense Force have shields. During the training arc, you saw that they deployed their shields. They got those shields from kaiju biology. So kaiju have shields that allow them to support their organs and support their organ function. It's a vague, hand-wavy explanation, but it works. So, problem 1, carefully explained away with science. Kaiju have shields, so therefore they can be that big. Growing that much inside would release a tremendous amount of heat. And we see that one of the main reasons that the Defense Force officers have those masks is that when kaiju change size, they vent massive amounts of superheated steam into the air. So the kaiju had this water in its body, and as it changes size, it releases that water to drain the excess heat from its body. As to where did all that mass come from? Well, kaiju number 10 gets distinctively thinner and skinnier as he grows up into this size. So his total mass, it's probably molecular rearrangement. He's puffing out certain muscle groups, but that's still a complaint. But hey, this is a fantastic story after all. So Matsumoto took what was the most viscerally mocked meme from the Power Rangers, from that classic anime manga culture, and Matsumoto presented it unironically, straight up, no plot twists. Here's a monster gigantification scene. Oh no, whatever will our heroes do? Cut to the end of the episode, get a cliffhanger. Presented 100% straight, done with a respect for the medium, done with a love of the style of storytelling, and done with attention to specific details that explain away as much of the fantastical element as possible. And where did the extra mass come from? Where does Kafka's extra mass come from when he loses his limb and then has to regrow it? We don't know. It's an inherent part of the world, and one of the aspects of reality that we, the audience, willingly agreed to ignore. At the very beginning, when we first saw that first giant kaiju step out of the ocean. But what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Do you think that this episode shows just how much love and respect Matsumoto has for what is inherently an absurd genre? Or am I just reading this completely wrong? Leave a comment below telling me what you think, hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.
Drake McCarty's leg was shattered, deep in the wilderness. As the flash flood closed over him, something alien pulled him from the waters. A military base that shouldn't exist. An ancient warrior with secrets of his own. Drake returns to his family with a whole leg and the burden of a secret he doesn't understand. In the forest around them, someone is watching, and something followed him home. Flying Sparks. 90,000 words of science fantasy adventure. The first novel in the Dying Embers universe is now available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo by Rakuten, Google Play Books, and from the author as a signed copy. Get your copy now, and step into a world where dragons walk the forest, aliens lurk on the mountain, and things go boomp in the night.
Escape into another world with the writings of author Betty Adams. Two worlds, one of utter absurdity, one of dramatic tension, both alike in aliens absolutely astounded by human behavior. Humans are weird, short, absurd science fiction stories. Flying sparks, dragons, aliens, and things that go boomp in the night.
Books available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo by Rakuten, Google Play Books, and at authorBettyAdams.com for a signed copy.